Hello, everyone, and welcome to another weekly recommendations of the Lonely Podcast. I'm going to recommend things that are completely unrelated to the current political situation and the war in Israel, just because I know for myself I need some sort of a distraction to keep my sanity. And if you need that as well as I do, here are my weekly recommendations. So the podcast of the week is TheoVon hosting DanaWhite on his podcast. I think that TheoVon has become truly one of the best podcast hosts that I came across in a recent time. First of all, he's extremely funny, but he's also very sensitive, and he creates these amazing connections, actually very unlikely connections between different type of people. And in this episode, DanaWhite is exactly what you would expect DanaWhite to be. Like, I love DanaWhite, and I think this interview showcases DanaWhite in the best possible way. So at one point in the interview, Theo tells Dana that he had one of his sponsors calling in and asking him to take the episode that he did with RFK Jr. down, because if not, he's gonna withdraw the sponsorship. And DanaWhite went completely off on this sponsor, and it was hilarious to see. Again, he is not disappointing. DanaWhite does not disappoint. To see his raw reaction to that, and also the interaction that he has with TheoVon after that, with the back and forth, is fucking hilarious. Truly, I laughed out loud. I was walking around laughing out loud because I thought it was so funny. And it's exactly what you would expect DanaWhite to be, but it's just so hilarious to see that. Anyway, TheoVon hosting DanaWhite on his podcast, highly recommended. The movie that I recommend this week is Standbyme. Now, I'll be very honest, the reason I love Standbyme so much, which is a fairly old movie, I think it was shot in the late 80s or early 90s, it is because it reminds me of my childhood so much, because the way these kids grew up is actually very similar to how I grew up, in a very isolated place with only a handful of people around me that kind of forced me and the other people around me to become really close friends, whether we liked it or not. And the premise of the story is these four boys go on this adventure to find basically the body of a kid that went missing a few days or a few weeks ago. Throughout the journey, they encounter a lot of things. Basically, it is just a very heartwarming story that really talks about friendships and camaraderie among these young boys going on this journey. And basically it shows this simplicity of life in those areas, and at this moment in time, like before the internet was so spread, before iPhones and all this, the digitalization that we experience today. I watched this movie with nostalgia, and I love it, and I think that you would like it as well. Okay, so the book of the week, this is a very special book. It's called Big Sister, Little Sister, Red Sister by Jung, Chang. So this book is telling the most incredible political story that I've honestly ever read. Basically, the family's founding father, if you will, came to the United States in the late 1800s and was educated in America, went back to China, had three daughters. All of them came to America as well to get educated in America's colleges, and went back to China. Now, what is interesting here is that all of these daughters were either married to or extremely close with the most important men in China's history, like recent history. The first married to Sun Yat-sen, who is considered to be the father of China. Now, you can read the book and decide if he deserves this title, but he's a very important political figure in the beginning of unification of China, which was very divided at the time. The second one, little sister, married to Chiang Kai-shek, who was the leader of the opposition, actually supported by the United States, to Mao Zedong. And he became later the leader of Taiwan when he escaped to Taiwan after Mao Zedong became much, much more powerful in China. And the last sister, the red sister, was not married to, but she was a very, very close ally with Mao Zedong and was a member of the Chinese Communist Party. So while one sister was in Taiwan, married to the leader of Taiwan, the other sister was in Beijing, very close with Mao Zedong. A lot of Chinese people know about it, but I don't think a lot of Western folks know about this story. And I have to say, if you want to get kind of an overview of China's history, I highly recommend it, because it's not just the story of China, but it's the story of China from the point of view of these three sisters who, again, all from the same family, but somehow were able to become probably the most influential women in China's recent history. So, Big Sister, Little Sister, Red Sister by Jung, Chang. Okay, so to summarize, the podcast of the week is TheoVon inviting DanaWhite on his podcast. Fantastic. The movie of the week is Standbyme, and the book of the week is Big Sister, Little Sister, Red Sister by Jung, Chang. I hope you will enjoy and have a great weekend.